Hello, everyone. My name is Vartika, and it is a pleasure today that I would be talking about Haudenosaunee Nations, also known as the Iroquois Nation. I would be doing this on behalf of Group E. The other members of my group are Rabia, Thromil, and Darshi. We belong to Section M, and we are enrolled in the project management program of Algoma University. In this presentation, we would be talking about Iroquois history, kinship, economy and trade, government, sovereignty issues, religion, conclusion, and self-reflection. So to talk about the history, Iroquois people were the people who lived in the forest of the Northeast. They were commonly known as the people of the Longhouse. It basically comprised of five nations, Cayuga, Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, and Seneca. Later, Tuscarora also joined their union, making it six nations. If I talk about the unique ways of knowing of this tribe, wampum belt was a very effective medium through which the knowledge was passed on to the younger generation. History was recorded on wampum belts. If I take you to the figure one, this is the figure of a Hiawatha wampum belt. It comprised of 38 rows, and it is basically an emblem of the unity between the five nations. Like we discussed, that this tribe was also known as the people of the long house. It is because they had long houses which were 100 feet long and 20 feet wide. This house could accommodate several families of the same clan. The houses were divided by two long corridors. Each family had two floors. The upper floor was used for storage, and the family lived on the lower floor. The villages were settled close to the river, and it was protected by long fences called as a palisades, and there were warriors responsible to protect the village. If I talk about the kinship, the tribe was divided into three clans: the bear, turtle, and the wolf, and each tribe was headed by a clan mother. So, in a way, in this tribe, the lineage passed through the female line. That is, the social construct what was determined by the female lineage. If I talk about marriages in this tribe was exogamous, which means that people were allowed to get married outside of their clan. But after marriage, it was the husband who would move to the longhouse of their wife, and children became a part of the clan of their mother. A woman could leave her husband at any time for any reason, but not vice versa. Also, it is interesting that the land in this tribe was always in the name of women. Now, coming to the economy of this tribe, agriculture was the main occupation of Iroquois people. The most important crops were called the Three Sisters, which was bean, corn, and squash. Hunting and fishing was also a very common practice in this tribe. During spring, they collected maple sap to make maple syrups. Talking about the trade, gifting was a very common practice in this tribe. Surplus corn or tobacco was often exchanged with the neighboring tribes in exchange of pelts. Now, pelts were used for clothing, and it was also used for trading with the Europeans. This actually facilitated the Iroquois people to acquire firearms, weapons that enhanced their political influence in that particular area. Now, talking about the governance, The Iroquois people had something called as the League of Nations, which comprised of all 6 nations together. This was also known as the Iroquois Confederacy. Each nation had specific number of seats, and it was the women who decided or elected the male members of the League of Nations. So over here in this slide, we have listed down the properties of the League of Nations. It had a clan system. There were councils. It was separated by branches, and there were leaders representing their respective nations in the council. Also, the 6 nations, they would celebrate their traditional ceremonies together, reinforcing harmony. There was also there is also a contemporary relevance to this. This actually influences the modern democratic system and principles that we have today. If I talk about religion, then Iroquois people believed in a particular god, in one god, and they called it the Great Spirit. They believed that the Great Spirit is the creator and is responsible for the preservation of good. They also believed that it was the Great Spirit who guided all people. Dreams were considered as important messages from the Great Spirit, and religious people of each village were responsible for interpreting these dreams. Now, talking about sovereignty issues faced by the Iroquois people, especially when it came to the treaties that were signed with the Europeans, Iroquois people struggled to protect their traditional territories. Land rights were often misunderstood and violated by the European powers. There were challenges in obtaining the legal recognition. Indigenous land and natural resources were overexploited, and they also struggled to preserve their tradition, and their spirituality. Continuing with these sovereignty issues, we as a team, we have also tried to explore their interaction with the French and the Britishers. The Iroquois people had a very productive relationship with the French. They were involved with French in the fur trade, which led to a 50-year war with the French. And the good part is that the Iroquois people, they won the war, and they did not allow the French people to dictate their economy, and they were able to manage their own fur trade. Britishers also tentatively agreed to these terms. Iroquois people were also related to British when it came to surplus fur trade, corn trade, and tobacco. It was in 1970, it was in 1754 that the Britishers started to consider the Iroquois people as British subjects, but they knew that Iroquois people had a very, very strong military, and they used this alliance in their advantage during the American Revolution. However, the Oneida and Takarora people, they joined the American military. So conclude in this presentation, we have explored the rich heritage and culture of the Iroquois people. We talked about their ancient traditions to the modern struggles of sovereignty that they had today. We reflected on their historic journey to see how, despite various challenges, Iroquois people were committed to protect their land and heritage. We as a team, we completely are in admiration of how Iroquois people were ahead of their time with female-led clans, strong military, and the intellect of trade that they had. This has challenged our perspective and deepened our understanding of the native culture. We remain inspired, and we continue to learn and actively support and respect indigenous culture. I would like to take a moment to thank all my members who actively contributed in making this presentation possible. and in success of this assignment. This is the figure table where we got the images from that we have used in this presentation. And this is the reference list from where we collected data for this presentation. That would be all. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation.